Good afternoon, Dr. Strickland and class. This week's subject on the conflict between fundamentalism and modernism has been fascinating. The issue is a common one with institutions. In the military, where I served in uniform for 22 years and as a civilian for almost 14 years, there are old soldiers like me who sometimes balk at changes. That's a healthy thing to do. There's a stability and confidence in what has been and what has worked, and sometimes change needs to be tempered with caution. On the other hand, change can be a good thing. I would certainly not like to experience dental care from the 1920s, for example. One of the fellows mentioned this week was J. Frank Norris, who's definitely a character. I'm sure someone will cover him as he's a great subject. The person I want to cover is Norris's friend and co-laborer in the Baptist Bible Union, Thomas Todhunter Shields, more commonly known as T.T. Shields. Born in Bristol in 1873, his father was an Anglican preacher who broke with the Church of England and continued to serve in Wales as a primitive Methodist. In 1885, his father became convinced of the Baptist position. This well mirrors the progression of Charles Spurgeon, who was saved in a primitive Methodist church and yet united with the Baptist. The change in churches meant a change in location, so the Shields moved to Canada when Thomas was a teenager. Thomas never had schooling beyond high school. His Bible college was his father. In time, Shields would become known as the Spurgeon of Canada. The church he built in Toronto, Jarvis Street Baptist Church, is one of the most magnificent Baptist churches I've seen anywhere in the world. Shields aligned himself with the fundamental Baptists and counted among his friends some of the Baptist giants of his age. Like Spurgeon, who parted ways with the modernists in the Baptist Union in the UK, Shields went to war with the modernists of his age. In 1910, he became pastor of Jarvis Street Baptist Church and then began the Toronto Baptist Seminary in 1927 in response to creeping modernism. He also started and edited the Gospel Witness periodical, and his church had the largest Sunday school in Canada. The fundamentalist-modernist fight was a cross-border affair, and the impact of modernism took its toll on the Northern Baptist Convention just as it did the Baptist Union of Canada. Eventually, several fundamentalist churches left these conventions, the Canadians led by Shields. Together, these groups formed the Baptist Bible Union in Kansas City in May of 1923, with T.T. Shields as its president, a position he held until 1930. The big three of the BBU was Dr. Shields, J. Frank Norris, and Dr. William B. Riley, the grand old man of fundamentalism. You see Dr. Riley's position on this slide. The BBU had its final meeting in 1932 in Chicago, which was also the first meeting of the General Association of Regular Baptist Churches, a group that still exists today. Some of the more militant churches became small unaffiliated churches. Many remained in the new GARBC, while others went on to constitute a conservative voice within the American Baptist Convention. In all, T.T. Shields had a remarkable career, but I will close with an important anecdote. One of Shields' nicknames was the Battling Baptist, and his frequent quarrels sometimes led to disaster. One such occurrence has to do with the Des Moines University in 1927. Baptist established the school in 1865. You can see some of the school's highlights here, waning and waxing through the years before Shields agreed to take over the college, sight unseen and against the advice of his close friends. His desire was to establish a fundamentalist college from the liberal arts school that was there. This was the same year he started his school in Toronto. It had 377 students from a variety of denominations, and a faculty made up of moderates, liberals, and fundamentalists. Instead of firing him, he tried to influence them to the BBU cause. The moderates on the faculty were not pleased with the fundamentalist regime. Shields filled the chapel pulpit with fundamentalist preachers, and that created considerable angst among both the liberal faculty and students. In response, Shields fired all the administrators and the faculty. The liberal students, meanwhile, hearing of the purge, ignited a mob against Shields, chasing administrators through the building looking for him. One of the students boasted if the mob could have got their hands on Shields that night, they would have undoubtedly have murdered him. The riot made news both in national and international papers. The BBU met in Buffalo, New York to decide the school's fate, and in 1929 the school closed for good. The BBU would never recover from the incident, though, and 2 years later it was gone. I love Thomas Shields. I gave my youngest son the name Thomas as his middle name after him. His zeal and accomplishments are praiseworthy, but there's also a warning. The BBU fiasco brought disdain on the fundamentalist cause. Fundamentalism is not divisive. It seeks to unify those who subscribe to the Bible's teachings, and we must defend and proclaim the Scripture. Furthermore, movements cannot survive if they allow compromise on biblical issues. But we must do so in a Christ-like manner. That's our story today about T.T. Shields. Have a good weekend.